I was not an instant success in photojournalism. It took a long time for me to kind of figure out what I was doing. It took a long time for me to start to make the pictures that I knew I wanted to make. It also took a long time for me to accumulate the influences that are important to me now. Pretty early on, I started accumulating photography books, which I feel like are the most important, by far the most important way to learn documentary photography and photojournalism. They're expensive and they're heavy and they take up a lot of space, but there's no other way for me. They're the ultimate vessel for documentary photography. It's not the same as clicking through an online slideshow. It's not the same as looking at somebody's website. A photography book requires so many resources and so much time to produce that it's almost always the ultimate iteration of someone's work. So I was pretty early on, I was on the photo books, but it took me a long time to accumulate the influences, like I said, that I use to further my work now. And those are, I'm very influenced by narrative nonfiction writing, long form journalism, of course by newspaper writing, I'm influenced by contemporary fiction. I read widely and I read pretty deeply at the same time. It's a huge influence for my work, and I also try as hard as I can to incorporate my own writing into my documentary photography practice so that it focuses and sharpens my thinking, and I'd like to think makes my stories deeper and have a different perspective than your average set of documentary photographs. I spent 3 years as a staff photographer at a newspaper in Stockton, California, The Record. I always recommend to young photographers who want to make a career in photojournalism that they do everything they can while newspapers still exist to get a staff job at a newspaper. It's a completely different experience than being a freelancer or even an intern. It's a valuable experience. I'm a huge fan of newspapers, believer in newspaper and daily journalism. I spent 3 years at the paper and had a great time. I miss it all the time. I loved working there. I loved the journalism that my colleagues and I produced while we were there. But when it was time to go, when my time there was up, I decided to enroll in a master's program at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. I completed my master's degree in 2011, or the coursework for the master's degree, and I earned my degree in early 2013 by finishing my thesis. For me, grad school was an excellent segue between the life of a staff photographer and working as a freelance photographer. It was that in itself is a bit of a transition, but graduate school was a great time, an excellent time for me to sit back and spend a lot of time thinking hard about what I was photographing and why, and what it meant to photograph, what it means to what issues of representation, representing other people especially, and issues of using people to illustrate broader themes. So I was able to sit down and spend 2 years thinking about that stuff really hard. When I discovered narrative nonfiction and the caliber of narrative nonfiction being produced by magazines like The New Yorker, Harper's, the New York Times Magazine, I became kind of a sponge for that work, and I began to consume it. I mean, let alone for the great documentary photography that those magazines produce. I think I probably went to them initially for the photography, and then I stayed for the writing. And now the writing, I think I find, sustains me even more as the industry shrinks, and I find less and less compelling documentary photography used in those publications. I still read them every week because the narrative nonfiction writers that are producing work for those magazines are such a strong influence on my photographic work. I shoot short documentary, and I love to gather audio. I think it's an important component of my journalism, but I decided to focus on what I find to be like a more fundamental version of multimedia. I focused on my writing. I focused on learning to be a better writer, and I had the pleasure to study with the dean of the Scripps School of Journalism, Graduate School of Journalism at Ohio University, Michael Sweeney, and he turned me on to great writing, great dispatch writing, and also gave me a toolbox to use to improve my writing dramatically. I mean, no photograph exists without at least a caption, and to me, there's so much opportunity or so much need for writing that goes along with photographs to provide context, to help readers connect with the pictures. And the more of that work that we photographers do, the better. No one can do it better than us. No one else was there. No one else has a budget to pay for someone else to do this writing. And so we have to do it, and we might as well do it well. We might as well write, and we might as well learn the lessons of great writers to do that, exactly that, to make the text that goes along with our pictures, and to make it compelling, and to do it at a level honestly as high as we're producing pictures at. You know, we want to do it. We want to photograph at a level, and we want to write at a level, or aspire to write at a level as strong as our pictures. Clear, effective captions that don't repeat the action in the photograph and that give us some kind of context for what we're looking at are fundamental. There's no newspaper or magazine in the world that accepts pictures without clear, concise, and informative captions. Personal dispatch writing is something that I've incorporated in my photo practice, and it's something I read a lot. I've read a lot of other people's, and I'm influenced by, and it's a really effective way to connect with audiences, to bring your personal, emotional experience of the story of what you're working on, along with the photographs, can help an audience connect. Writing these things, and I've written thousands of words over the years for them, is dramatically focused my journalism and helped me understand my personal reasons for pursuing it. I think that it's important for photographers to be focused and clear in the story they want to tell, and I think that the smart thing to do for me is to break really big, complicated stories up into smaller pieces, either smaller chapters or smaller, so you can bite off more than you can chew. Like every time I come to make a trip to Guatemala, I have an idea for a shorter term story that I want to do that fits into this larger project this larger story I'm trying to tell, right? So each time I come, I have another idea or another focus. I love that the world consistently surprises me every time I show up, and I think I know how this is going to go down. Every time I show up, and I think I know who these people are before I get there and what they're going to be about. You know, humans, they have no shortage of surprises in store for you. Always surprising. It never gets old.